The restaurant buzzed with quiet luxury, crystal glasses clinking, violins humming softly, and a warm golden glow spilling over polished wood. At table 9 sat Richard Hale, a self-made millionaire in his early 50s, the kind of man whose confidence filled a room before he said a word. His wrist shimmered with an imported watch, and his laugh, loud and unrestrained, often followed his sentences, as though the world itself were in on his jokes. He wasn't cruel. Just careless. The kind of man who'd never been told that money isn't the same as class. Across the dining room, a new waitress rushed between tables, a petite young woman with warm brown eyes and a faint accent. Her name tag read Elena. Her uniform was crisp, but her shoes looked worn at the edges, as if they'd carried her far beyond the marble floors of this elegant place. "Hey, you," Richard called out as she passed. "Over here, please." She turned with a polite smile and walked to his table. "Yes, sir. Good evening." Richard leaned back, swirling the wine in his glass. "You're new here, aren't you?" "Yes, sir. My first week." "Where are you from?" His tone was casual, but there was something in his smirk, that easy arrogance of a man testing someone. "I was born in Romania, sir," she replied softly. "Romania, huh? That explains the accent." He chuckled. "All right then. Tell you what, if you serve me in perfect English tonight, I'll give you $1,000 tip." The table beside him went quiet. Even the violinist's bow seemed to pause. Elena blinked, unsure if he was serious. "Sir?" "You heard me," Richard said, grinning at his friends. $1,000. But only if you speak English perfectly all night. Think of it as incentive." His friends laughed. One muttered, "That's one way to test service." For a moment, Elena just stood there, embarrassed, maybe even a little hurt. But then she nodded gently, composed. "Of course, sir. I'll do my best." The night carried on. She served his table with quiet grace, every dish balanced perfectly, every word careful and precise. Her English was clear, professional, even beautiful in its calm rhythm. When she returned with dessert, Richard said loudly, "Not bad. I almost forgot English wasn't your first language." She smiled faintly. "Thank you, sir." His friends chuckled, and Richard leaned forward. "But tell me, do you actually understand what you're saying? Or are you just repeating words you memorized?" This time, Elena's smile didn't waver. "I understand perfectly well, sir. Words carry weight, no matter what language they're spoken in." That response drew a small murmur from a nearby table. Even Richard's friends exchanged looks. But he just waved it off. "All right, philosopher," he said. "Let's see how perfect you really are. Bring me a wine recommendation, in English, of course." "Yes, sir," she said quietly. A few minutes later, she returned with a bottle. "This one," she said, "is a French Bordeaux. Bold but balanced, with earthy tones. It complements your steak perfectly." He raised an eyebrow. "Not bad. But, can you even pronounce it right?" Elena smiled again. And then, without hesitation, she switched languages, her voice lilting into fluent French, her accent flawless. "Monsieur, ce vin est un Bordeaux exceptional. Il incarne la richesse du terroir français et la passion du vigneron." The entire table froze. Richard blinked. "Wait, you speak French?" "Yes, sir," she said simply. "And also Italian, Spanish, German, and English." The violinist stopped mid-song. Heads turned from nearby tables. "But, why are you working here?" one of Richard's friends blurted. Elena hesitated, her eyes softening. "Because languages don't pay the bills, sir. Not when your family needs you to send money home. My mother is ill. My younger brother is still in school. So I do what I can. Her words hung in the air, delicate, heavy, undeniable. Richard looked down at his plate. For the first time that night, the arrogance drained from his face. He remembered his own beginnings, delivering newspapers in the freezing rain, scraping coins for college meals. Somewhere along the way, he'd built walls of wealth around his heart, forgetting what it felt like to struggle. He cleared his throat, his voice softer now. Elena, I didn't mean to insult you. She shook her head kindly. You didn't, sir. People often test others without realizing they're being tested themselves. That line hit him like a punch. She turned to leave, but he stopped her. Wait. He pulled his wallet out, counted a thick stack of bills, and placed it gently on the table. Not $1,000, he said quietly. $10,000. For your family. The whole room went silent. Even the clinking glasses seemed to hold their breath. Her eyes widened. Sir, that's too much. No, he interrupted. It's not nearly enough. You reminded me tonight what real intelligence looks like. What humility sounds like. For the first time, there was no laughter in his voice. Only sincerity. That night, when the restaurant emptied and Elena finally stepped outside into the cool night air, she found Richard waiting near his car. He looked up from his phone awkwardly. Hey, do you have a minute? She hesitated but nodded. He took a deep breath. I did some reading about Romania tonight. You've had a hard few years, haven't you? Yes, sir, she said. But every country has its struggles. I also learned you speak the hardest languages in the world. I run a foundation for global education, and I'd like to offer you a position. You'd manage communication with our European partners. Remote work, full benefits, triple what you make here. Elena gasped. Are you serious? He smiled gently. After tonight, I'd be a fool not to be. Tears welled in her eyes. Thank you, truly. He shook his head. No, Elena. Thank you. You reminded me that the people we look down on are often the ones we should be learning from. 3 months later, an article appeared in a New York business magazine. Millionaire humbled by Waitress, hires her to lead global education project. The story went viral. People across the world shared it, from London to Toronto, from Chicago to Bucharest. But for Elena, the fame didn't matter. What mattered was the call she got one morning from her mother, voice trembling, tears in her words. The medicine came today, Elena. I'm feeling better already. Thank you, my love. Elena looked out her apartment window, sunlight spilling across her desk covered in language books and notes. For the first time, her dream of helping others through communication wasn't just a dream. It was her life. A year later, she was invited to speak at an international conference in Geneva. On stage, she stood poised and radiant, the same humility glowing in her eyes. Her speech began in English, clear, strong, heartfelt. Then she switched languages, one after another, weaving a message of unity across borders. Finally, in English again, she said. Language is more than words. It's respect. It's empathy. When we speak to others with kindness, we build bridges, not walls. The audience rose in thunderous applause. Among them, Richard sat quietly in the front row, tears in his eyes. He didn't see a waitress anymore. He saw a woman who'd reminded him, and the world, that true wealth has nothing to do with money. Moral. Kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. Never judge a person by their accent, because sometimes, the voice you mock might be the one that teaches you humanity.